Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into something that's really personal and, honestly, pretty misunderstood. We're talking about the complex internal world of someone who struggles to trust.
As I read that, I bet someone comes to mind. Maybe it even sounds a little bit like you, that person who seems to get you completely to know exactly what you need, but there's always a part of them you just can't quite reach. It's a really fascinating dynamic, and we're going to unpack exactly why it happens. All right, so first things first, we have to challenge a big assumption we all have. Because the stereotype of a person who doesn't trust, it's almost always completely wrong. And just look at this contrast here. We tend to picture someone cold, a paranoid loner who's cynical about everything. But the reality? It's often the total opposite. It's someone who is incredibly good at relationships, who can make you feel so seen and understood, all while keeping you at a very safe distance. This isn't some personality flaw. It's a defense system. A carefully constructed internal architecture.
So what's really going on here? This is the key. We're not talking about a mood or some quirky personality trait. We are talking about a conclusion that the brain came to a long time ago based on the evidence it had.
So, how in the world does a brain even reach a conclusion like that? Well, let's get into the origins of this neural template.
There was this psychologist, John Bowlby, who gave us this really powerful idea called the working model. And what it means is that our very first relationships with our parents, our caregivers, they basically create a blueprint in our brain. And that blueprint is there to answer one single fundamental question for the rest of our lives. Is it safe to depend on other people? And whatever answer it comes up with, well, that answer tends to stick.
So here's how it often starts. The very person you need for safety and comfort is also, somehow, a source of fear or instability. Now, the brain is all about efficiency, right? So it doesn't just flag that specific person as unsafe. No, it makes a much bigger, more sweeping generalization. People, as a whole, are unsafe. And once that template is set, the nervous system basically goes into bodyguard mode, defending that conclusion in every relationship that comes next.
Okay, so let's shift gears. Let's go from the how to the what. What does it actually feel like to live with this conclusion every single day? To be on this internal battlefield?
Just try to imagine this for a second. There is a permanent, absolutely exhausting negotiation happening inside your mind. On one side, you've got the basic human need for connection, for closeness, for love. And on the other side, you've got this deep core belief that letting someone truly get close is just not survivable. It is a constant, draining tug-of-war. And the psychologist Jennifer Freyd actually coined a term for this specific kind of experience. She called it betrayal trauma. It's what happens when the person hurting you is also the person you depend on to survive. And to cope with that impossible situation, the brain does something pretty remarkable. It learns to ignore what's happening. It learns, as she puts it, to not know what you know, just so you can keep that attachment alive. And the long-term results of that is, it's huge. You completely stop trusting your own judgment. You're constantly second-guessing everything. You might see a situation with crystal clarity. You might know exactly what's going on, and then immediately you'll hear these voices. Am I reading this wrong? Am I just being too sensitive? Maybe I'm the problem here. Your internal compass has been scrambled on purpose.
And all of this internal chaos, it has to go somewhere, right? It shows up in our behavior. For some, it looks like avoidance, keeping all relationships on the surface, maybe even starting a fight right when things start to get close. For others, it looks like anxious attachment, this constant state of high alert, always monitoring and testing the relationship. And for some, it's just this back and forth. You pull someone in close, you panic, and you push them away.
And this part is so important to get. Because from the outside, these behaviors, they can look like someone is just playing games, like they're being manipulative. But from the inside, for the person going through it, it doesn't feel like a game at all. It feels like they're drowning.
So the big question is that it? Can you change this template? Can you actually rebuild trust? And the answer is yes, absolutely. But it's a slow, deliberate process. So let's talk about the path to what's called earned security.
So first off, let's talk about what doesn't work. Big gestures, grand promises. Why? Because you're trying to use words to convince a nervous system that has been wired since day one to expect betrayal. Words are just noise. The old evidence is way too powerful.
No, the real path forward is through what's called earned security. And this is not a quick fix. It's this slow, methodical process where new evidence, consistent,
safe, reliable experiences starts to gently challenge that old working model. And notice the key word here is revise, not erase.
So what does this actually look like in real life? Well, it's not the dramatic movie-style moments. It's the accumulation of small, almost boringly reliable ones. It's someone just being who they said they were, over and over again. And every single time that happens, the brain kind of reluctantly files away this new piece of data that challenges the old story. And slowly, over time, that constant state of high alert starts to come down. The old architecture, it's still there, but it's getting updated with new, safer information.
And that brings us to a final, really profound thought here. For anyone who's been on this journey of rebuilding trust, of earning that security, it's important to note that the work doesn't just stop. That architecture you built to survive was incredible. It kept you safe. And so the question becomes something much quieter, much stranger. After all that work, which of those walls do you actually still need?